So now that student debt relief was rejected, is there anything we can do to reverse the PPP loans? Super simple. Rules for me but not for thee doesn't bode well when we outnumber the 1 million to 1. My boss got one and he's a multi-millionaire. His business stayed open and made more money during the government paid his employees and he kept the extra money. No, PPP loans all went to rich people who fired people anyway. Apparently it's only constitutional to forgive loans to wealthy people. Unfortunately, it's not that easy. The Supreme Court's trend has been to check executive powers conveniently, mostly when it's used by Democrats, and will say that it requires legislative approval, congressional action. In the case of PPP loan forgiveness, that was part of the law enacted by Congress. The GOP specifically pushed for no oversight on how those funds were used. And thus, another example of hypocrisy when they cry socialism. Get proof that the companies who used the PPP loans didn't use it on the company. I know a company who applied for one, got it, and the owner used it for a new car. I only heard this through back channels. Let's do the French version. Sounds like a good time for a crowdfunding campaign. Those were for rich people. Stop being so silly. I would also like to stop contributing to Social Security, as it will be insolvent by the time I qualify to collect it. How is that not taxation without representation? A crispy white ally needs to bring a frivolous lawsuit predicated on feeling slighted by companies having loans forgiven while they never had to use a loan and don't feel it's their responsibility to carry the weight for these businesses. They can start with Kanye and Tom Brady and work their way down to bars local to my area who sat idly by while their staff turned to demoralizing gig work rather than share any of the PPP loans they received. Time to hit the streets, people. It's us versus them. Pitchforks and torches in DC by the hundreds of thousands. A few hot vats of roofing tar and some feather pillows would be useful as well. That's incorrect. PPP loans had forgiveness written in the legislation. Biden's stroke of the pen isn't the same. Congress needs to pass it like PPP. Now if you want to go after the fraud in PPP, I am all for it. Yeah, this debt was shifted to the public without proper consent. I do not wish to pay for those loans, and these businesses should pay their obligations. The federal government didn't forgive my loans and I already paid them off. If you do the math right, we only outnumber the 1 by a margin of 99 to 1. We have to vote this country away from GOP. Otherwise we have no right to complain. This whole business of Dems and Republicans are the same is just helping Republicans. You will never hear a Republican say that. This is why they are winning and we are losing. So here's the thing. And I never got a penny of PPP money, BTW. It was stated from the outset that the PPP loans were probably not going to require any repayment, at least up to a certain amount, and if they met the criteria. Student loans did not. It was something promised by someone, the president, after the fact, that did not have the authority to actually make it happen. No. You're missing the point of the US. While in other countries the ultra-wealthy pay taxes to provide a safety net for the lower and middle classes, here in the States the lower and middle classes pay all the taxes to provide a safety net for the ultra-wealthy. Oh no, those are sacred. No. That's different. The rich can get forgiveness because they are rich. They worked hard for their wealth and success and their forgiveness with no help ever, and made it all work by picking themselves up by the bootstraps. Seriously, take back PPP and distribute it evenly to student loans. Someone needs to file a lawsuit. No, there is nothing we can do because those businesses made financial decisions based on those loans being forgiven. And they will likely go bankrupt if they are forced to pay it back. Wait a minute. The company I worked for got $700,000 for employee bookkeeping or something like that. I didn't get a raise that year. I've heard that faking your own death and moving to New Zealand is pretty popular. The word you're looking for is sacrifice. But no one wants to sacrifice anything. Carpool, bike ride, mass transit, even walk. Stop getting takeout food, grow your own, cook your own. Stop treating everything as if it's disposable. Stop upgrading to the latest greatest anything. Stay home and spend time with the wife, husband, family. Do without, don't buy that plane ticket or take that vacation or rent that hotel room. We have to hit them where it hurts, in their bank accounts. That's the only way we'll get their attention. I'm British and this shit makes zero sense to me. Can someone explain it? How can the courts block this? I presume it's been budgeted for? The big difference between Biden's student debt forgiveness and PPP loans is that PPP loans were passed through legislation and student loan forgiveness was enacted by executive order. I fully support student debt relief and hope we can still get some sort of forgiveness, but that's a huge difference. 1 million to 1. I couldn't stop laughing. PPP was passed by Congress, this debt forgiveness was not. Don't be mad at a majority of PPP recipients, be mad at the people who have let these predatory college loans exist for years. Be mad at the university for out-of-control costs. Be mad at the textbook makers and publishers for having ridiculous prices. We cannot forgive student loans until we fix what caused this mess. Why is no one calling for an investigation into the schools, and why the price of a higher education has increased faster than the pace of inflation? No comparison between the two loans. One PPP loan was used for a time of national emergency deemed by the federal government, in theory designed to assist businesses in distress get through a rough patch. 2. Student loan was a choice made by the individual to pay for education. The issue at hand is who pays for the decision of an individual. I know some people can't find jobs after receiving degree and never will work in their fields. That is a very difficult situation. Money given to businesses who were forced to shut down by government is completely different from loans people voluntarily took out. PPP loans were approved by Congress and designed to be forgiven. If Congress had approved the student debt relief, it would never have gotten to the Supreme Court. Biden didn't have the authority to do it on his own. This entire issue is just because Congress didn't do their job and pass the student debt cancellation. Call your rep and demand that they fight for legislation that would make going bankrupt on student loans possible. Without reading other comments, just wanna point out that we outnumber the one at 99-1. Most small business would be gone if not for PPP, and wages and unemployment would be 25. Go ahead and downvote because I expect nothing less on Reddit. Don't worry folks, now that the government is wasting $400 billion to bail out 40 million Americans, they'll use on smart options like buying more planes and tanks and bombs. Smells like DoD getting a $400 billion Christmas bonus early this year. Let's all celebrate the purchases of new toys of rawest. Fuck that, I am a one-person business and got 10K in PPP money. If that was reversed, I'd be screwed from both student loans and PPP debt. I know there was a lot of fraud with PPP, but it also saved some people, including me. I would have gone homeless without it. The loan forgiveness was not struck down due to anyone's opinion on who should pay them back or not. It was a matter of the executive branch not having the authority to allocate $400 billion without congressional approval. The PPP loans were introduced as part of the CARES Act, by Congress, who has power of the purse. If Congress had cancelled student debt, it would not have been struck down. Reverse, I don't know, but there can absolutely be better enforcement and auditing of where the funds went that were forgiven. Well, I see why you can't repay your student loans. One isn't 1 million to 1. It's 100 to 1. No. They don't give a fuck about us, they never have and never will. The system is rigged and we will never benefit from it. It is just the way it is. Reverse the PPP loans. Ask the workers to send the pay they collected back to Uncle Sam. Paycheck Protection Program was set up to prevent massive layoffs. It was a government program to benefit employees, not the companies.